the New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of election, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of DTRH. It is August 28th, 2014. Tonight, I am joined by two of my very close friends, some very free thinkers, and the brains behind Truth Frequency Radio itself, Mr. Chris Geo and Sheree Geo. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us, definitely.
I'm glad you guys were able to take 2 hours off to come and hang out with me tonight. I want to pick your brains about something. I mean,
always.
I could pick your guys' brains for hours. You know that. We have, some epic conversations off air. But if I'm going to get into a conversation about ancient aliens, the Bible, religion, I guess you could put the Bible falls under the religion category. So ancient aliens, religion, and then the consciousness of mankind and its evolution. I can't think of two better individuals to have this conversation with for the benefit of the listener. So thank you so much. Thank you, Sheree, for coming on. You guys are my good friends, but I know you guys do a lot of stuff. I mean, you do your own radio shows. Chris has a full-time job. You run the site with, writing articles all the time and doing investigations. So it's not like you guys just sitting around all day. So I know you're busy human beings. So I know I, as well as the listeners, appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, it's always a pleasure to come on, and we have been head deep into some pretty interesting things, and Scott Lopez out there who's in the chat room, he knows what I'm talking about, but we're not going to bring that up until after we've done all of our research and put the article out there, so just a little caveat there.
Little tease for the listeners.
Yes.
So stay tuned to truthfrequencyradio.com, ladies and gentlemen, for the newest breaking news article from Chris and Sheree Geo that will be coming out soon. Dun, 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 dun.
Yes, but if I sound a little bit exhausted, that's the reason. I was all hyped up for the show. I was ready to go, and then we got on this and just started digging right into it. And I looked at Sheree and I said, my God, we're going down another rabbit hole here. I mean, it's going to go deep. And sure enough, the more we start to uncover, the deeper and deeper we realize this rabbit hole really goes.
That's usually what happens when you start to look into this stuff. I honestly wish, like people say to me all the time, you just love to find this, don't you? No. You want me to be quite honest? Sometimes it would be refreshing to not have all the weirdness going on and just have something be straightforward. But that's not the way it works, apparently.
Yep.
So I look forward to it. I know what you're talking about. I look forward to all I'll say is, yeah, there's definitely something there. Again, once is happenstance, 2 times is coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. So I'll leave it at that. So let's start with tonight's convo. First, I guess if we're going to talk about religion, the evolution of the consciousness of humanity and ancient aliens, we should start with ancient aliens, because that's where a lot of these religions actually, when you start to trace the roots, everything goes back to these ancient tribes that worship the stars and everything, and then these beings that they always worship, always in these stories end up coming from the sky, the heavens, right, down to the earth, like the Annunaki did in Sumeria. And you have these, what appears to me to be beings of extraterrestrial origin, because they're not from the planet. The definition of extraterrestrial means not from Earth. So if something comes from either another dimension, another planet, the quote-unquote heavens above, it does not really matter where they come from. They are of extraterrestrial in origin. So starting off, would you guys say that, I'm accurate when I say, in at least my research, that from what I can tell, all these main huge religions, and even these little spin-offs, because they come from something bigger, but all these main religions that everybody follows in one way, shape, or form throughout the world all seem to go back to these like ancient nomadic cults, which seem to go back to like Sumer and Babylon, and that it all ties into the stories of like the Anunnaki, or at least beings coming down from somewhere else and coming to the planet and giving power. Like, would you give that any credence, the idea of the ancient alien theory?
Yes, that's correct. No, I'm just kidding. Could you imagine? I hate those guests that do that. You ask them a really long question and they give you a short answer. Okay, so I was a practicing Christian for several years, about 20 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that. And I had a chance to really read the Bible. I mean, I really studied what I was looking at. And I really didn't bring this information with me until just recently, when I started to have all of these lights just sparking up around me, and I could see the synchronicity the universe was laying out before me. And so I had a lot of questions even back then with the Bible, and I always wondered, there's just too many holes in the story, and it was always filled with, well, that's just the way God works, or, oh, that's just some stuff you won't be able to understand in this lifetime, but you can ask Jesus after you die. And those were the answers that I was getting. And so I just put it to the side for a little bit, because it just wasn't really resonating with me. I mean, it did for the time being. It served its purpose, and then I moved on. Then I came across a lot of Sitchin's work, and I came across a lot of these other texts that are out there that pretty much echo this entire story, except tell it from a very different perspective. Now, what's fascinating is that these stories actually predate the Bible. And we have the Sumerian culture, for instance, who has the 7 tablets of creation, which echoes the 7 days of creation. It has the Epic of Gilgamesh, which echoes the flood story, and many, many more. And so this was like, I want to say about 3,000 years before the Bible was written. And so they had a lot of knowledge that was impossible for them to have, according to mainstream historians. They had a Congress, they had a Senate, they had a money system. They were able to identify Uranus and the other one, Neptune. And they were able to identify them by color. They counted all the planets. They knew that Pluto existed, even though we didn't identify it until 1931 or 32, around that time. And so you have to start to look at this seriously and wonder, where did they get all this knowledge from? Now, 100 years ago, people looking at these tablets may not have realized it, but in the last 100 years, we've started to verify, and we've started to actually achieve scientifically a lot of the stuff that they were talking about, which we once thought was myth. Genetic engineering, for example, that's a given nowadays. It's something that a lot of people out there are fighting against. Genetically modified organisms, cloning sheep, cloning humans, and things like that.
And these ideas were just black magic 500 years ago, and now a minotaur isn't that far out of the question when you think of what these bioengineering companies are doing.
Right, exactly. So we have to really pay attention to what they're telling us in these tablets. They say that they got this information from star gods, that gods came and were literally walking amongst men at one point in time, and they came down and genetically engineered us. Well, if they've got all this other stuff correct, I'm going to pay attention to all of this, especially now when UFOs and the idea of aliens is pretty much common knowledge. I don't think anybody would disagree that aliens exist and that UFOs are out there. Maybe they might disagree with me on the UFO part, but when you look at it, in terms of probability, and look at all the stars out there with all the planets and all of that, there's got to be more life out there. The first lie was that the Earth was flat. And the reason that they told us this lie is because the priests who knew this information would go out there and say, oh, follow me, otherwise God's going to send a serpent and eat the sun. And then the serpent comes and eats the sun, an eclipse, a solar eclipse. And then they'll say, oh, well, we'll make the sacrifice and you all are following me now. And everybody would drop to their knees, and then the serpent would expel the sun, and God would bring back the sun, because they believed that it was because they were doing the sacrifices and because they were following this particular priest in this religion, while the priesthood knew that these were solar events because they knew that the earth was round. The next lie is that there's no other intelligent beings out there. So if there's no other intelligent beings out there, then we're isolated to ourselves, and we believe that this is the way that everything happens. But then as time progresses, we start to get more and more understanding, and start to accept the fact that that was also one of the biggest lies. The other lie is that we've never had any extraterrestrial beings visit us, because history is just replete for all the way back to the caveman era with petroglyphs written on the walls, where you can see gray aliens and you can see what looks like spaceships, and you see it in Renaissance art, and you see it all throughout time. There's one of two explanations here, and you pick which one is less woo, and I'm talking to the listeners out there. But the first explanation is that we have been visited and manipulated since the beginning of time by extraterrestrials. Or the other explanation is that extraterrestrials landed recently, achieved time travel, and that's why we see them showing up in our ancient history. Not because they've been throughout our history, but because they've been going back in time travel and manipulating the history. Now, I don't know which one, people want to go along with, but I tend to go along with the idea that the gods walked amongst us, and that's why all this ancient civilization had all of this knowledge. Now, we invaded Iraq, Syria, Iran. That has been the focus here in the last 20 years, and even before that. But, that has been the main focus. What was Iraq? Iraq was Babylon. Well, it was the Persian Empire before that, before Iraq. Before that, it was Babylon. Before that, it was Sumer. All of this stuff that we're talking about goes directly to the place that we have to go invade, we have to take over, and we have to rape and pillage everything about it. Now, the first operation that we ran in Iraq back in the first invasion, the first Gulf War invasion, was called Operation Planet X. You can look it up. This isn't some kind of weird, conspiracy. This is really what it's called, Operation Planet X. And on the surface, it says it was to go secure this particular village and secure this particular individual. That's the mainstream definition. But 11 miles away was one of Iraq's biggest museum that housed a lot of these tablets and other artifacts from the Sumerian and Babylonian times. Saddam Hussein would also say that he was the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar as well. Now, like you said in the beginning of the show, one time, coincidence, two times coincidence, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's a pattern going on here. These people believe this. Whether this stuff is true or not, it's up to the listener to decide. But what's important is that these people believe it, and they are creating worldwide wars around this to try to get all of this information and secure all of this information.
Dude, the first thing they did in Baghdad was they sent the special forces in, they blew the doors off the Baghdad Museum, and they went in and they took the Sumerian, the cuneiform tablets, and they took statues and stuff, including one of a humanoid reptilian female breastfeeding a human baby.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And then you can find the same kind of iconography in Egypt, where you have Isis breastfeeding. Then you find it in the Christian religion as well. You have the Virgin Mary holding in pretty much the exact same pose. They've just taken the breastfeeding element out of it. But you put all these together and you realize that these are symbols and iconographies that have been repeated over and over and over again. So these mainstream religions were definitely derived from these ancient tablets. Now, mainstream religious people would say that it was Satan's deception and he went back in time and he created all this stuff just to fool Christians and test their faith and all this. That's a little bit too woo for me. I can get pretty out there, but I can't get that far out there.
Those
I need
are the same
little
people,
more solid fact than that.
Those are the same people that believe that dinosaurs were put here by Satan, that he came back and he planted that stuff to test our faith in God. And it's like, look, at this point, if you actually buy into that and believe that, then you're locking yourself in the most base level, small, tiny little box that I could imagine. I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. Well, Satan came back and he put those bones all over the world to test my faith. Just to test your faith. There's like how many billion people on the planet? Just to test your faith.
How self-important are you?
Well, exactly. Like, think about that for a second. I mean, talk about an ego. Out of everybody, Satan picks you to F with? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Think about that for a minute.
Some
really?
guy in a trailer park in
Exactly.
Georgia.
Exactly.
Faith is
Sheree.
very, very, very dangerous, and it's what the elitists have relied on since the beginning of time. And it goes back to what I was talking about before, when everybody believed that the earth was flat. It was faith in the priest, faith in the God, that that the priest had communication with God, and that he would make the sun reappear. But it's all a deception. And that's what we have to realize. Now, you can look at the economy, you can look at history, you can look at anything else that has been presented to you on the surface, and I think everybody would agree history's full of lies. The way the economic system works is full of lies. Nationalism is full of lies. Everything that we've been raised to believe and that has been force-fed to us is full of lies, except for people have a hard time taking that next leap and saying, well, religion is a lie too. They think for some reason religion is the absolute truth. What convinced me is back in, 2003 or something like that, I was sitting around watching CNN, and they did an interview with this pastor from Tennessee or something like that, some nobody pastor. And at that point, I was in the mindset that, this is God's word. God would never let his word be changed. It has to be true, etc. I was typical brainwashed type of person back then as well. But the pastor was on there, and he was boasting about how he took all references to masturbation and sex out of the Bible that he was teaching in Sunday school. And they were kind of chastising him back and forth for it. Oh, well, you can't change God's word. Oh, well, it's no big deal. I'm just taking out the dirty parts, blah, 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 blah. At that point in time, that's when it just something sparked in me. And if this pastor here can change the Bible, well, King James, with all his authority and brainwashing over people, can definitely do it. Mm-hmm. So the idea that the Bible is corrupted is not really hard to come to the conclusion of. Even a lot of mainstream Christians now are starting to come to that conclusion, but then they argue about the different types of translations. Oh, well, we got to go to the Hallelujah Bible, or oh, we got to go to this Bible, or the King James Version, or the New International Version. They argue over the types of versions instead of just see it for what it is. The entire text is manipulated, and it comes from ancient Babylon, Sumer, Egypt, and beyond.
And Gentleman Skeptic wins the chat for the first half hour of the show. If Satan could time travel, wouldn't he just go back in time and kill Jesus when he was an infant? Oh, logic bomb.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, wait a minute. So Satan can time travel, and he's going to go back and hide things like dinosaur bones, right, to test your faith. But he's just not going to go back and just take out Jesus and then wipe it. Done. I can go back in time. I'm Satan.
Well, no, he's protected by God.
Well, and some Christians would say, well, that's what he tried to do. He tried to get King Herod to kill baby Jesus, but an angel came to Joseph and said, get out of town. So they went to Egypt.
Well, what's funny?
Is this the story of the first Terminator movie? Seriously, think about it. You hear the plot? Oh, he went back in time to kill baby Jesus. Like they sent the Terminator back in time to kill baby John Connor before he was born. To kill his mother, and then the guy that goes back in time to protect him ends up fathering John Connor. Oh my God, time paradox. Don't. What was the angel's name? Just wondering. Wouldn't be Joseph, would it? I mean, just.
I don't know.
I just thrown it out there. I think
it's amazing. The angel was Gabriel, who announced the baby. Is that what? Sorry, I'm lost.
No. Who went back and saved the baby? Because. If Satan was time traveling, we're talking about the time traveling version.
It just says an angel. It doesn't specify which one.
Okay. See, look, let's be honest, and we're going to get into this later. There is a Satan energy, a dark energy. I personally don't think it's anthropomorphized or it's a man. And neither is this God good energy either, whatever it is, this essence that our souls come from. And by the way, I believe that there is a overall creator above everything, even the Annunaki and all that, because something had to make their energy too. So they came from somewhere.
That's what's most interesting about the Lost Book of Anki. They acknowledge the creator of all. There's one particular story where they knew that Nibiru was coming back and was going to create a cataclysm and catastrophe on Earth. And the council met with each other, and they all were going back and forth. And the conversation or the notes from the meeting are in the Lost Book of Anki. And so what happened is Alelu left Nibiru and came to Earth because they needed gold, and there was a big thing that happened with Alelu, but just to get into that part of the story is just too much. But he stole a spaceship and came to Earth. And he broke through the asteroid belt and all this. And he redeemed himself by calling Nibiru back and saying, hey, I found gold. And that goes back to the big struggle and everything that was going on Nibiru before he took off. So then when they came down here, they needed slaves. They brought workers from Nibiru to work here, but the difference in atmosphere and climate were just too much, and so they genetically engineered man. Well, when they had this council meeting when the Earth was coming back, one thing that they said is the way that they were debating all of this is that, number one, we've already violated the creator of all's law by coming to another planet. We're not supposed to do that. So obviously there's a universal law where you don't go from one planet to another, or maybe it's one planet to another that is so new and such an unformed planet where the species has to determine for themselves through their own actions if they're worthy of existence or not, without any outside interference. And I think that's where we're at right now as a species, is we're making that determination without any outside interference. But there is outside interference, though. Somebody has violated that universal law. They already violated it by creating us. Now, the second universal law that they violated was genetically engineering us. They're very open about this. And so they decided they're not going to tell any of the humans about what's coming because that would be a violation of the law of the creator of all. They openly admit that there is a creator of all, that they are false gods. As a matter of fact, that's what I took the most out of the Lost Book of Anki. Here we have two books that are pretty much identical to each other, the Bible and the Lost Book of Anki. The Bible tells me that I'm a slave, that I'm a sinner, that I was born of dirt, that I'm a scum, I'm a wretch, and Sheree's even worse because she's female, because she doesn't have a phallus. And so, that's what I take out of that book. What I take out of the Lost Book of Anki at the end, there's one phrase in particular where Enlil looks to Anki and he says, we've been here on Earth for so long that our offspring are as the humans, and the humans' offspring are as us. There's no distinguishing between the two. And Anki says, yeah, they have become like us. And that's the message that I took out of here. We were created as slaves. At one point in time, Anki took us to the side, taught us the priesthood, and taught us, we can get into all of this later, but taught us the priesthood, taught us the hidden knowledge of the universe. And then we grew up and we stopped being children of God and we became as gods, not as the creator of all, but as the gods who created us. And I'm using God in the lowercase g. And so it's a book of empowerment to me that we need to stand up, that we need to be men and women, not be children of God. And that's what religion always tells you. Oh, you're children of God. Listen to what the religious people remind me of Chris Rock. But when he got up there and he says, well, Obama's like the father of the family and the first lady's like the mother of the country. And so you have to listen to what your mommy and daddy tells you. Well, no, we need to stand up and be men and women, and we need to be as gods ourselves, but not as gods in the sense that we are the creators of all, as gods as in we stand on our own 2 feet and we acknowledge the creator of all, and we don't submit to any other 3-dimensional or 4th-dimensional or 5th-dimensional beings. The only one that we are under is the creator of all, as is the way of the universe.
I look at it like we're in universal kindergarten right now. And everybody else is already in 5th, 6th, 7th grade on the way to high school, and they're all waiting for us to have this leap so we can, all go to school together and play in the same playground. Right now, I think the rest of the universe looks at humanity like, we're in infancy, with the way we think and the way we act. I mean, we can't even get along. Yes, I agree that, they aliens, people say, oh, I have to worry about an alien invasion. They invaded thousands of years ago. They've been here a very long time. But I think one of the reasons that nobody gets too close right now, besides maybe this prime directive, universal law type thing, whatever, is also that who the hell would want to get close to our planet? If you're from another planet or from outside wherever, who would want to get close right now? I wouldn't. We're out of control. Look at us. We're killing each other over sand and over whose God is better and correct. I mean, how stupid and ignorant can we know my version of the story is better? No, my version of the story. It's not even, sometimes I break it down and I say people argue over whose imaginary friend is better. And I sum it up like that in a nutshell when I'm talking. But honestly, think about this for a minute. People are killing each other over whose version of a story is more accurate. Think about that. Think about if you were telling an urban legend campfire story and the other half of the camp was telling a different version of it, and suddenly the camp went to war, and for the next 1,000 years they were at war with each other over whose version of the Jack the Ripper, killer in the woods story was better. I mean, that's literally what people are doing. They're fighting over whose version of a story is right, and guess what? None of you are right. How does that sound? You're all killing each other over ignorance. I mean, it's crazy.
You're absolutely right. Our idea of God and Satan, light and dark, whatever you want to call this energy, is so skewed that if you take a look at a simple situation, you can determine what light and dark is, what's darkness and what's light. However, the religious leaders and politicians have spent centuries writing books convincing you that dark is actually of the light. And that's something that I would love to get into on the other side.
Well, yeah, I want to talk. You actually had, you did an interesting show about different energies, and that's why I said, I believe that there is a dark energy, whatever, lack of a better term, Satan, right? It exists, but I don't think it's anthropomorphized. I don't think it's actually like one individual running around like a humanoid. But we can get into that anyway on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Make sure you check out Chris and Sheree show on the weekends. Amazing stuff. 3 hours on Saturday and 3 hours on Sunday. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Popeye, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to be able to do the show with that filth and profanity on.
I was waiting for somebody to bring that up tonight.
Do you remember that?
Yes. I was. What's funny, ladies and gentlemen, just as I was about to come in, I was about to make a comment about that, actually, because I was thinking the same thing. That... Interesting topic that we're talking about religion, Chris, because I remember back in the day a former host at a different network that I work with actually left the network because my bumper accidentally fired during his show, and it was that bumper, and he got so offended that there was that I two-step with Lucifer, and meaning he was boxing with him is what he's talking about. He was dancing in a boxing ring with him is what he's talking about, like he does battle with him. You have to understand the lyrics of what the guy is singing about, but yeah. So that's
I think that's where a lot of my views on religious people come from, is the fact that they're so uptight. It's like George Carlin said it best. He said, they forgot the 11th commandment, which is keep thy religion to thyself. If you do a Christian show and it's 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever, great. That 3 hours, but don't start getting offended because other people don't agree with you. I don't get offended at the Christian stuff. We have Christian shows on our network. I love the people very much. We disagree wholeheartedly on a lot of different issues. But why can we sit here and tolerate their information, but they get offended with us? It's not all Christians, though. Like the ones on our network, Kenneth Emmanuel, he's a great, great, great guy. Very open to a lot of the stuff that we talk about. We go back and forth. And, he stands steadfast in his beliefs, which is fine. I'm not trying to change his mind or anything, but at least he is open and he can still accept me as a brother. But the majority of people out there, they want to create that division based around their religions. And that's the whole purpose of religions.
Well, it kind of, it took me a long time of studying this, Chris, to figure this out. But I used to get upset because I used to get mad at people. I'd be like, "Oh, you're stupid religion," God. Not that I was raised Christian, but I had, I was also exposed to Judaism, so I was exposed to both. But a lot of people, I used to get pissed off at first and say, "Oh, you're dumb religious dogma or whatnot." I realized that I can't. Over the years, you can't approach it like that, because if you not that I don't believe in God or anything, it's just I didn't believe in the doctrines of man that that people have used throughout the years to control people and manipulate humanity and stuff. I don't agree with it. So I would try to have a debate, and then it would turn into going back and forth, and they would be pig-headed, and then it's you don't listen, blah blah blah. And I would find that it was always Christians that I would be arguing with, so that when I ended up having this conversation, it was always Christianity that we were talking about. And I realized that people would, their argument is, "Oh, you're bashing Christianity. You're bashing Christianity. You're bashing Christianity. How come you don't say this about any other religion?" Well, it took me a long time to figure out, I was like, why is it that, and I don't know why I didn't think about this sooner, but, and it wasn't really extremely long, but I guess I didn't really put too much thought into it. And then one day it hit me. The reason why Christianity is one of the first religions that's brought about is because that's the one
that's the prominent one.
Yeah, it's prominent, and even if it wasn't prominent in numbers, it's on air, it's on radio, it's on TV, it's on YouTube, people do talk about it openly. There are churches and stuff. You don't see the Jews or the Muslims doing the same thing to that extent. I mean, they do it. I'm sure they have their own little video room, channels on YouTube and this and that, all this other stuff. But Christianity is more prevalent, and unfortunately, it's usually the biggest, loudest people that are spewing some of the most ignorant statements, and they use that as this fallback, I would say, to give them a justification for the way that they think or the way that they act. When in reality, I mean, you're just falling back on stories. I'm not bashing Christianity. I'm not bashing your beliefs. If it's helped you get through stuff, that's great. But understand that your religion, Christianity, is no better than Judaism, and it's no better than Islam. They're all the same. Everybody's arguing and hating each other and trying to put each other in a box so that they can go, well, you're not like me, so I hate you. Labeled. And everybody's arguing over whose version of a story about where we come from is better. Think about this for a minute. The reason why we're not traveling through outer space and interdimensional travel, and we're just figuring out quantum physics and stuff, but I mean, the reason why we're not light years ahead, besides being retarded by the powers that shouldn't be, is because we argue about religion. We argue about whose version of a story about where we come from. Like, Mom didn't tell us where we came from, so there's three brothers, and we all are arguing, right, over the three brothers represent, like, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, the three biggies, right? And these three brothers are all arguing over, where they, how they were born or, where they came from. And they end up fist fighting each other constantly. I mean, that's basically, like, a very narrow breakdown. It's stupid. Like, we can't, hello, use your brains, McFly. Anybody home in there, huh, McFly? Anybody home? We kill each other over whose version of a story about where we came from is better. That's what this amounts to. And then from that religious myth, each version of it, then people are controlled, and then different things happen like 9/11, invasions of countries, killing of millions of people, justified because God told us to do it. We're Christian warriors. And then the Muslims are, well, Allah tells us to fight back and blow ourselves up and do all this retarded crap, and they do all their crap. And then the Jews are like, well, this is our sand, and we want it, and F everyone, screw the Christians and screw the Muslims. I mean, this is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And then
You're absolutely right.
We argue over God as a real estate agent. What do you two think about that?
Islam, there's really no tenets of Islam that say that you go kill somebody else because of different beliefs. What it actually says is jihad is to protect your home. And we have been bombing the hell out of these people for quite some time. These people are protecting their homes, even if they have to bring the fight overseas. If you want to take the official story of 9/11 for face value, that's exactly what's happening. It's retaliation, and as Ron Paul said very well, blowback of what we've been doing to them. But really, there's only two elements to this world. It's a world of duality. We've got up and down, left and right. We've got man and woman. We have light and darkness at the root of all of it. And we have to start looking at things from a light and darkness perspective, or a good and evil perspective, however you want to categorize these two elements. And we have to have some kind of standard of measurement when we're measuring these things. Otherwise, we're open to brainwashing and indoctrination by people like Christian leaders that have been doing this and not just Christian leaders, but everybody who's been doing this for thousands of years. I'm actually in the middle of writing an article, and it's not the one I was talking about in the beginning. This is a different project. But I would say that we need to start with a foundational baseline of measurement, of how we measure light and dark. And I think everybody would agree that the elements of light is life and freedom. Those are the two elements of light. Darkness is impeding upon life and freedom. And so we can take these and look at everything in the Bible, for instance, and try to look at it and say, is there light and is there darkness? Is this a work of an act of light, or is it an act of darkness? But then there's a third element that the religious people have been brainwashed and indoctrinating into believing, and that is called justice. Now, their justice is very real, but they've been indoctrinated into a skewed idea of justice. Justice, the way that I've defined it in this article, is an equal reaction to an act of darkness. If I'm in the process of killing somebody, or if I have killed somebody and society deems that I need to die, that's justice. If I go out and murder somebody, that is darkness. So we have these three elements here. We have life and freedom, and we have darkness. Life and freedom, and we have justice, and that makes up light and dark. So let's look at a couple of these situations and elements. Now, it's important to note that all three religions all come from the Torah. So they're all basically Torah law. Even Sharia law, it's an extension of Torah law. The Christian law as well all goes back to Torah law. So let's look at one key thing that everybody's arguing about. Even in Saudi Arabia, it's punishable by death right now: homosexuality. Is the act of homosexuality an act of light or an act of darkness? Well, let's look at the measurement here. Does it impede on somebody's life, or does it impede on somebody's freedom? No, it does not impede on anybody's life, and it does not impede on anybody's freedom. Therefore, it is not an act of darkness, because as we said earlier, darkness is impeding upon somebody's life or freedom. Yet all three religions, the way it's written, believe that homosexuality is punishable by death. Right. So you go and you kill somebody because of their sexual preference. That's not an equal reaction, so it can't be categorized in the justice side of things. You can't say, well, it's justice. That is an act of darkness. And if these three books are telling us that we have to commit an act of darkness, then it is coming from a dark element. And it's all three religions. Like I said, in Saudi Arabia, they're still practicing this punishable by death. If the religious right here in the United States had their way, homosexuality, for example, would be punishable by death. And I think that's one of the most benign, quote unquote, sins, and it's the most personal too, because that's between him and God, or her and God. It's not between the church and that individual. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with anybody except for that person and their creator. And when you try to tell somebody what they can do in their own bedroom, in my opinion, that is even worse than telling them what they can do in their own home. It's the biggest violation of freedom and of life if it's punishable by death. So let's take a look at a couple of other situations from the Bible, for instance. The Bible gives rules, and so does Islam, how to keep and the Torah, how to keep slaves, how to invade foreign lands, keep the women and children as slaves, and spoils of war. That's an act of darkness right there. And then the religious people come in and try to say, no, that was justice because they were going against God. Well, no, killing babies under any circumstance, whether it's in the middle of war and taking them as slaves or whatever, is not an act of light. It is an act of darkness. Those babies did not do anything, period. They didn't do anything to deserve to be enslaved. There is no equal reaction. So because the equal reaction ceases to exist, it can't be categorized as darkness.
But that's actually a logical fallacy too. And ding, ding, ding. Appeal to authority. Because God said it's right, I can do it. Okay, but then you call the Muslims animals if they appeal to their version of their God, right? And they do what their God tells them to do. They're animals. So, and I'm just saying, not all Muslims. I'm talking about like the radicalized, crazy jihadists that think what they're doing is correct. Some of them actually buy into it. Some of them are just nutbags, whatever. The point is, if you look at it's the same argument. But if you look at it, suddenly only one of them is okay. The other one's not justified. But it's the same thing. It's an appeal on all three. And there's all the religions are like this. All of them are. I see them all as a trap. There are good things that can be taken from some of the teachings and some of the things that come from each religion. So there are some positive messages in there, but just because there's some good stuff in there doesn't mean that you should allow it to control you. You should have some discernment and be able to take away. Maybe one of the stories is just like a parable. It's not really anything more than just a story, but you can take from that story a life lesson or a moral lesson, and you can apply it to your own life. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But all of these religions, all of these books, everything dates back. All of my research has shown me it all goes back, okay, to the same spot. So we're all arguing over whose version of God is better. over where we came from. We're arguing, we're killing each other over where we were created from. Think about the insanity of that. We're killing, taking life away from each other based on each other's differences of opinion about where that life came from.
Let me jump in for a moment. Let me bring up the Egyptians, for instance. The Egyptians, Moses went to Pharaoh and he asked them to free the Israelites for 3 days. If you really read the text the way that it's written, it was only for 3 days so they can go out and pray. Well, God decided that he was going to harden the Pharaoh's heart. So right there, that's a violation of the Pharaoh's free will because he's impeding upon his decision by hardening his heart. And the ultimate outcome of that situation was the slaughtering of all of the firstborn in Egypt. Now, it wasn't just the Egyptians. It was the firstborn of the slave girl. It says the slave girls and everybody who was in Egypt who wasn't marked by the Passover blood of the lamb, which, I mean, that even tells you right there. They went out and killed an innocent lamb and put the blood all over the door.
Which is disgusting.
Right. But these babies didn't do anything to anybody. So it is not an equal reaction to a crime. If Pharaoh had committed a sin against God, let's just say, or a crime against God, then there should have been an equal reaction against Pharaoh, not against innocent firstborn. The killing of innocents is pure darkness. I would say that is the most polarized to darkness that you can get. And so when you start to look at all of this from this perspective and measure it by light versus darkness, or does it violate somebody's freedom, or does it violate somebody's right, and is it an equal reaction to something that they have done, then you start to see that the God of religion, which is the God of Abraham, which all of these religions worship the God of Abraham. Christians will fight and argue and say, oh, they're worshiping Allah. Allah simply means God in Arabic. Theos means God in Greek. I mean, there's a word for God in every single language that's different than the God. So they're worshiping the God of Abraham. And there was Isaac and Ishmael who separated, and then that's how the two religions separated. But it all goes back to Abraham, which was their father. So these people are all arguing over worshiping the exact same God, but the God is a God of darkness. There is no other way to look at it. I mean, just take a look at the Christian symbol. It is a medieval torture device used to kill thousands of people. If that doesn't tell you something about the religion right on the cover, it's not like they try to hide it. They say, here is a medieval torture device, boom, right on the cover. This is what you're getting into when you open up this book. I don't know what to tell people, but what happens is that these Christian leaders and religious people and all this, they've brainwashed people, they've indoctrinated people, made them believe that killing babies is okay, made them believe that slavery isn't really slavery, it's indentured servitude because they owed something. But then, somebody like me brings up, well, what about this part here that says you go and invade the land and take the women and children, and then it becomes a whole back and forth thing, and then they get mad and they say, screw you, I'm not talking to you, you're of the devil. Simple, end of story. But what we're really dealing with here is we're dealing with the left hand and the right hand of the same monster. And that's what I'm getting at here. You've got the left hand, which is Satanism. It is Satan at its finest. It is the political structure. It's the economic structure. It's going out and invading other people's land and taking their resources in a complete violation of life and freedom, the two things that we already determined you measure light with. And so they go around and they violate. And then you have the religions on the other side, which are built in darkness but shrouded in this false light. Here's where the false light comes in. So you see one aspect of it, and then you go running to the other side and go, oh, well, I'm in the light now. And you're still in the same hands of the monster. It's just a matter of are you in the left hand or the right hand? Because when you're going out and condemning people because of personal choices that they've made and then committing, horrible acts against one another in the name of this God, it's still a dark act any way you look at it. Now, here's the kicker here, and we can get into Lucifer consciousness here in a little bit. But the left hand uses all of these light symbols. Obama uses the symbol of the dawn. The Illuminati use the symbol of the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. It's the exact same thing that they've done to these symbols that they did to the swastika. The swastika was a symbol of protection. It was a symbol of unity with God, et cetera, et cetera. And so Hitler came, and now the swastika is an evil sign instead of a good sign. Same with the pyramid and the all-seeing eye. The pyramid and the all-seeing eye is enlightenment. It is the 3 points coming together. It is the meditative state of the body. It's the chakras in perfect unity with each other. But they've made you veer away from that. And I hear Christians nowadays saying, oh my God, they're bringing the light. Look at the light. Look at that, fear the light. And it's like, wait a minute. Who fears the light? The darkness fears the light. Remove all the programming, remove all the indoctrination for a second and think about what you're saying. And then they turn around and say, well, it's the false light.
Didn't Jesus say, I am the light? Right?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
I am the light, I am the way.
World.
Right? Okay,
Yes.
I'm the light of the world. I'm the way, the truth, and the life.
So if he's the light of the world, would that technically make him the light bearer?
Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, he comes out and says it in Revelations where he says, I am the morning star.
Well, and we all know
Christians Christians wouldn't argue with me that Lucifer's the morning star, but then they'll say, oh, well, Jesus isn't the morning star. He's the bright morning star.
Right, exactly. Like there's a difference.
Or some translations say the day star. But Jesus comes out and says, I am the morning star. See, Gnosticism is something that I've been fascinated with lately, and it basically says that Jesus came, was telling the Israelites and the Pharisees that they're worshiping the devil, that Jehovah is a demiurge, he's this soul-sucking reptilian entity, and he was completely separate from anything Judaic or Tauric or anything like that. However, then what happened is Rome later, when they crucified him and made him a Messiah, when they wrote in the resurrection story, then they tied the whole thing in because the Jesus movement was starting to pick up. And so they needed to tie it back into their already control structure, which was Judaism and everything else like that. And so that's where the two tie in together. But a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think that Jesus came to, there's one line in there that says, I didn't come to demolish the law or abolish the law. I came to fulfill the law.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, I have come to abolish religion. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I need every one of you out there to also start seeing with these higher perspectives. And let me tell you why. Okay.
And define religion, because I think a lot of people, when you say religion, not you, but when any of us say religion, again, it gets funneled into you're attacking Christianity. And that's why all of it.
Everything. It's time for it to go. In the age of Taurus, Taurus is represented as the bull. We worship Moloch. Moloch was the god of prosperity. He was the god of fullness. He was the god of abundance. He wasn't a devil. However, we as people who were so dumbed down believed that we had to sacrifice a child in order to make the crops grow. And so that's where the child sacrifice came in. Then as the age progressed, our consciousness shifted. And Moses came along in the age of Aries, and that's why the Jews are represented by the ram over and over and over again. He says, hey, you don't have to sacrifice your children. You can sacrifice a ram or a lamb instead. However, I'm also going to give you all these laws about slavery and all this. And so we had a consciousness shift. It wasn't a very big one, but at least we stopped sacrificing children and we started sacrificing rams and lambs instead. Then we had another consciousness shift as the age progressed and we moved into Pisces. Pisces is the fish. Jesus came along. He says, hey, stop sacrificing everything. It's total BS. You don't have to do any of this. And he said, love each other. And we said, no, we're going to crucify you. And so we crucified him and made him the final sacrifice. But his message was love and harmony with each other and get away from all this BS. That was the age of Pisces. And that's why you see the Christians have the Jesus fish. And he went and found fishermen and he fed people with fish. And it's fish, 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 fish. Well, this isn't some kind of weird, esoteric, New Age ideology. This is scientific fact. We have moved into the age of Aquarius. There's nothing that anybody can do about it. People can fear the New Age. People can run from the New Age all day long. But we're still in the New Age, scientifically and astronomically speaking. So now we're in the age of the water bearer, of Aquarius. And Jesus even said, he said, what do we do at the end? The disciples said, what do we do at the end? And he says, go down into the village, find a man carrying a bucket of water, follow him into the house, which he leads you into. The man carrying the bucket of water is Aquarius. The house is the house of Aquarius. We're now in the house of Aquarius. Now it's time for a new Messiah to come in. Who is the water bearer? Who bears the water, ladies and gentlemen? I do. You do. Sheree does. Each and every one of you out there bear the water. You're made of 60% water. Babies are made of 70 and 80% water. We are the water bearers. It's not time for one Messiah anymore. It's time for 7 billion Messiahs to stand up on our feet, take control of the situation, grab the bull by the horns, and say, now we're going to save ourselves. The Messiah and the leader is staring us in the mirror, because anybody who they put in front of us who have the traits of the Antichrist, the religious people are going to say, that's the Antichrist. Anybody who has the traits of the second coming of Jesus, and they can manipulate all of this because they have the book, they have the playbook there. It's not like it's hitting occult knowledge from them. They can read the Bible just like you can. So they can bring out a character who has all the traits of the second coming of Jesus, and people can go, oh, there's the second coming of Jesus. No, we are the water bearers now. We have to take responsibility. Otherwise, we're going to be led down like sheep to the slaughter.
Almost sounds just like, the idea of just personal freedom and taking personal responsibility for yourself and not looking to others to be your superhero or your savior. See, that's why I think the problem is a lot of people still get sucked into that dogma we were talking about earlier. And people, and I understand it. Look, I was raised in a religious, I don't want to say heavily religious environment, but my father, he's still a Christian. He doesn't run around telling me I'm going to burn in hell or anything like that. And we've had some interesting conversations. I think he's enlightened a little bit, but he still has his beliefs. And I was raised in that environment. My mom believed in Christianity. She didn't believe in ghosts or anything. She didn't believe in the paranormal. She didn't believe in that stuff. She didn't believe in demons and stuff. And when I asked her one day, or she believed in dark entities and stuff like that, but she wasn't sure she believed that they could come attack us and stuff. And she didn't believe in the paranormal or any of this stuff. And she told me, but even though she didn't believe in it, she encouraged me to research it, because she said, hey, I could always be wrong. So, I don't know 100%.
There is a dark force out there, Popeye. I've seen
yeah.
it. There is a
I don't.
There is.
I know. My mom knew there was evil, but she just didn't. She believed in mainstream Christianity. She didn't believe in the paranormal and stuff. I personally know that there's evil. Like she knew there was too, but I know I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've faced it in situations. Trust me. I have no doubt that evil exists and that there is this evil energy. I just don't think we have it nailed down. I don't think it's some dude dressed or with red skin, dressed in whatever he's dressed in, with horns and a tail and a pitchfork, running around in a fiery pit somewhere either in the center of the earth or wherever hell exists, and he's running around, trying to wreck everything, and anything that you do bad is caused by him. Again, to me, that's anthropomorphizing. It's putting it in man's image to make it simple to understand. I understand why man did that back then, but now we're more forward thinkers. We have to think about this. That doesn't mean I don't think there's not Satan. Au contraire, mon frère. I believe that there's a dark energy out there. I just don't think we have the exact knowledge of what it is nailed down, which means we have to know. What I'm saying is we need more intelligence on the enemy, basically, if you want to put it in easy to understand battlefield terminology. Anyway, stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. 3 short minutes and this epic conversation will continue. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is August 28th, 2014. I am hanging out with my good friends, Chris and Sheree Geo. And tonight we are having a conversation that we've actually had off air plenty of times, even with Joe having this conversation with us multiple different times. Just, getting in conversations and conversing, and, because we all do research, and then we'll end up in a group call for an hour, and all of this stuff just starts, without even planning on it, we end up brainstorming on a lot of this, and whether we're correct or not, it's an important conversation to have, and I'm glad that you guys were willing to give myself and the listeners 2 hours tonight to chat about all this stuff.
There's not enough time. There really isn't. One thing that I do want to touch upon is, as I mentioned in the last hour, there is this false dichotomy of the left and right hand of the beast. You've got the religions on one hand, on the right hand, and the Satanists on the left hand. And they're each flinging back and forth to each other. That's the false light, etc. And everybody's always afraid of this so-called false light. They're afraid to unlock the powers within themselves, the abilities within themselves that were given to us by God, the symbolism as well. They use a lot of these symbols in an evil way. And so why are we not allowed to use them in a good way? Why is it that we've been told that we have to leave our rifles at home before we go into battle with these people? They're using magic against us. They're using sacred symbolism against us. They're using sacred geometry against us. Why can't we use it against them? The religions tell us, no, that's bad, that's bad. And then the other hand of the beast are using the symbols. So anytime you see these symbols, you automatically relate it to something evil. And that's why I put on my Facebook page in my logo, which is the pyramid with the O in the middle, and it's got the G. And it's, a dual purpose. Number one, it's sacred geometry. But number two, it's also a mockery of them thinking that they have all the light and thinking that they have all the knowledge. Because guess what? The spark has sparked inside of me too, and I have a microphone. I'm not going to keep it secret. I'm going to tell people exactly what I've learned, and because it's time. Now is time. It's time for the world to know all this, and these secret societies have kept this information occult, and they've kept it safeguarded, is from what I'm starting to understand. It wasn't really a nefarious agenda. It was that they had to keep it safeguarded because we had the church, which is the right hand of the beast, which was running around and trying to suppress all of this and kill everybody off. That's how the Knights Templar formed, and then the Freemasons, et cetera, et cetera. And there was a usurpation of the Freemasons at one point in time. So there were evils that were attributed to the Freemasons, but it didn't have anything to do with the organization, and it didn't have anything to do with the knowledge that they were safeguarding. That knowledge has to come out now, and it has to be given to the entire world. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself and kind of getting off topic. But my point is that we have the left hand and the right hand of the beast, and they're all talking about this false light. And, don't look at the light. Don't look at the light. Why are we not looking at the light? The light is the wisdom. The light is the right way. The light is freedom and life. That's the two things that we've already determined that the light is. So there is a third situation here. There is the key to the door that they've been keeping from us. The key to the door is wisdom. The first sin was wisdom. The first sin was eating from the tree of knowledge, according to mainstream religion. And then people would say, it was the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, fair enough. I'll give you that much. It was the knowledge of good and evil. Well, if we can't tell the difference between good and evil, how are we going to be able to determine when evil is being inflicted upon us? Aha! That's why the first sin was the knowledge of good and evil, because we were able to recognize the darkness and distinguish it and say, well, that's a dark act and that's a light act. So we have wisdom. What is wisdom? People would argue that the term Lucifer means morning star, or it means light bearer, or it means, several other things. Let's go to the Latin here. Let's take out all the indoctrination, all the Christian programming, all the programming from all sides, all the programming from the satanic programming, because there is a satanic agenda to try to paint Lucifer as Satan and tie the two in together, because Lucifer is the key. That's what I'm getting at. But it comes from two words, Lucy and fer. Look it up in a Latin lexicon. A lot of these religious leaders are hoping that you don't. Lucy translates to the light. Fer, F-E-R, translates to carry. Lucifer carries the light. Lucifer is not the light bearer. He's not the bearer of a false light. He carries the light, or it carries the light. We are the light carriers. We have to shine that light, otherwise we're not going to be able to see in the darkness. We need light to see in the darkness. There is a Christ consciousness, and that is key as well. Well, that's the door. Lucifer is the key which unlocks the door to the Christ consciousness. You have to go through the process of wisdom. You have to go through the process of understanding, and you have to go through the process of being able to throw off all of these shackles. Carry that light yourself, walk through that darkness, and get to the door of the Christ consciousness. Unlock that door to the Christ consciousness, and boom, you are tapped in. I've seen it. I felt it. I'm living it right now. When I opened this connection to this higher self, my first thoughts were, I'm not worthy of this information, because I have not gone through the disciplines. I haven't gone through the rituals. I haven't gone through anything in order to achieve this kind of understanding. Why is this understanding being given to me now? The only thing that I can deduce from this external source of intelligence that I'm tapped into is to take it, give it to the people. They need it now. There is no time. We're running out of time. What's happening is that there is this dark force outside of our universal construct. And this dark force has been seeping this negative energy into our universe and taking hold of our world leaders, taking hold of a lot of the people around us. I mean, I just read an article about somebody down in, I don't even remember what city they were in or what country they were in. India. They buried a 5-year-old girl alive. The uncle buried a 5-year-old girl alive. And it wasn't like they sexually abused her and then buried her to try to cover up the crime or any of that. There was no rhyme or reason to any of this. And a passerby saw the dirt moving around and she was just about to go unconscious and they helped her get out of the ground. A 5-year-old girl was buried alive. What the hell is going on? I mean, it's one thing to go out and kill your neighbor because you want their land. It's another thing to just completely, bury a 5-year-old girl. Not only is that killing the innocents, but that's killing them in the most horrific way imaginable. I mean, just imagine what it would be like to be buried under that dirt and rubble and just not being able to move or breathe and no way out. I mean, that is horrific. And at 5 years old, where the consciousness is so young in this world, they're not quite understanding what's going on. Oh my God, man, the evil. Where is this evil coming from? It's being dripped into our universe, and this evil is taking over and taking over. And what it comes down to is that this entity, this evil, whatever you want to call it, this darkness, wants to manifest itself within our universal construct, and it is just about to do it. And this is the Antichrist. And the Antichrist isn't a person. The Antichrist is a consciousness stream, just like the Christ consciousness stream is. And the Antichrist consciousness wants to eliminate the Christ consciousness because the Christ consciousness is the light. The Christ consciousness, gets us tapped in to the light, and the Lucifer consciousness takes us to the Christ consciousness. But the Satan energy wants to completely eliminate our entire universal construct. So that's why we're seeing so much darkness right now. And they're going to play out revelations, and they are playing out revelations. And it's all, in order to try to bring forward this dark consciousness, this Antichrist consciousness. Every time they do a 9/11, every time they do a war, every time they drop a nuclear bomb or some kind of mass sacrifice, even things like Michael Jackson's funeral, if they can just get the whole world in a state of fear or a state of sadness or some kind of negativity, but death works best for them. Mass death works best for them. That whole the rift in our universe opens up more and more and more and allows this entity more of its dark energy into our universal construct in order to manifest itself within our universal matrix. So that is ultimately what we're up against. And that's why this energy said, here, take this information, give it to the people. There's no time. It doesn't matter if they've gone through the disciplines or not. It doesn't matter if they've gone through the ceremonies or rituals or any of that. All that is stuff of the old. It's time for the whole world to understand this knowledge, because we are here on the battleground and we're about to face the biggest enemy that we're facing. And it may not be on the physical plane, but the physical plane is definitely a symptom of what's happening on this spiritual plane.
We are at war spiritually. Make no doubt about it. There is no mistake about it. It's just incredible to think about what you just said, though. So I agree that there's this dark energy. It's interesting that what you're saying is basically about Lucifer is that it's been over time, it's been mixed in with Satan, so that the two actually became looked at as the same, but there actually isn't. And I've actually heard this before. You're not the first person that said this to me. Even Albert Pike even talked about there being a difference between Luciferians and Satanism, and others have talked about. I'm not saying that because Pike said that ooh, it's great. I'm just saying it's not the first time I've come across this stuff. And a lot of the times that I've come across things like this, it's from people that were inside of these secret societies that had access to more information than the general public did. So it just makes me wonder: is there some sort of validity to this, that perhaps maybe they did take the two names and mix them together to try to to try to make something look bad that wasn't bad, in order to more easily control and manipulate humanity. And if that is the case, then that's sinister. Again, I totally believe that there's some sort of dark energy. I guess the next question is going to be, because I know what people are already thinking in their heads. All right, if it's not some anthropomorphized character, like we were talking about Satan, right? If it's not some dude with red horns and a tail and a pitchfork running around in a loincloth in a burning, fiery inferno pit of whatever, what do you think it would be? I mean, do you think maybe Satan is more of a mankind's like representation of something from a different dimension, and maybe it could be more reptilian or whatever? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. What do you think? I obviously do not think that whatever the evil is looks like, you know, the version of what we have come up with, because that again comes out of man's mind, and with our limited access to the knowledge that's out there. Not that there isn't a lot of information, it's just we don't have access to all of this information. So I think what we've come up with is a little bit, you know what I mean? I don't think what we've come up with is, and it's also based off of what they fed us, right?
It is a manifestation of an energy that exists outside of our matrix. So if you want to look at it as a different dimension, that's one way to look at it. And I think that even mainstream religious people would agree that demons come from another dimension. So we're essentially talking about a demonic kind of force that is trying to manifest itself within our universe or within our earth, or however you want to look at it. It's still the same thing that we're talking about. Now, what is Satan? What is darkness? Darkness, we've already determined what light is. Light is life and freedom, and darkness is anything that impedes upon life for freedom. What is this Antichrist, this Satan energy in its purest form? It is a complete absence of light. Therefore, it is a complete annihilation of an extinction of life and freedom.
Well, here's another good question, and this is in the chat. This comes from me seeing what the chatters are talking about. They're saying, well, there has to be a balance, right? So does there always have to be this evil energy? I mean, will we always have to, not just as mankind, but even as we evolve, say we evolve and finally we meet all the other things, the other whatever species that are out there, and races, because that's actually where races would come into, right? Because it's the human race, whatever, say we run into something else and they're good, and they say, yeah, we know about this bad energy too. Like, do you think that there will always be this epic universal battle between this dark energy and the light energy of this universe going back and forth?
We do live in a universe of duality. Like I said earlier, light and dark, man and woman, up and down, left and right, heaven and earth, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a little bit of darkness within our universal construct because that is what gives us the drive to evolve even more. If we were in the Garden of Eden, for instance, in the Christian perspective, then we were in complete paradise and bliss, and so we had no reason to seek out more. We had no reason to grow spiritually. We had no reason to move up the ladder or any of that. So there is an element of darkness within our construct for that very reason. Also, we're tied to these physical bodies. So this physical body is actually, when you remove the light from it, there's no light that comes from this physical body. It's darkness. All matter is darkness. What's inside of us is the light. And so we do have a world of duality. Sometimes we have to kill an animal in order to survive. That's just that it's not an act of darkness in the sense that you're going out and doing something nefariously, like kicking a donkey off of a cliff, like a video that I just saw a minute ago. If you go out and you hunt and kill a deer and thank it for its spirit, everything works together in that regard.
Use every part of it, recycle it.
Right. However, this energetic force that is breaking into our universe is something different. It's a different type of darkness. It is a pure darkness. It serves no other purpose except to destroy and to contaminate and to completely remove our entire. I mean, what I've been shown is that this energy wants to eat our entire universe, and kind of like a Pac-Man eating, one of the little pellets. And maybe this is like an energy that goes around the whole multiverse and starts taking out different universes one at a time. Maybe this is a test of our entire universal matrix to see where are we going to gravitate to. Are we going to gravitate towards darkness or towards light? Are enough people, and I'm just talking on planet Earth, but I believe that this is going on universally. I mean, on every single planet out there, are enough entities in this planet going to spark within themselves and going to ascend up to that higher light construct, or are we going to ultimately be eliminated? We're being tested not only with our potential and our measurement I can't think of the word that I'm looking for. Not only are we tested in the sense, there we go, in the sense that we have the right to survive as humans, because we are being tested in that sense, but as a universal construct as well. Can we survive and can we make it past this point? And this enemy is very, very dangerous, and we have to all stand up together.
You know, while we were talking here, for whatever reason, you know, my brain works. I analyzed 1,000 things at once, and while we're having this conversation, a visual representation of what we're talking about, what you just said, this universe, this thing that travels through and like tries to destroy, you know, whatever. Did you ever see the animated movie in the 80s, the Transformers, the original Transformers animated movie from the 80s?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You remember Unicron?
No, I did.
Yes, yes.
Okay, when he transformed, what did he look like when he turned into a humanoid thing? He kind of looked like the devil. He had wings, he had kind of horns, right? He had claws for hands. He looked really big and nasty. But he floated around, he was a planet, and what did he do? He ate other planets and sucked all the people in and would process not only the planet but the people as energy and live off of their energy. So, like, as we're talking and you're saying this, I'm just like, oh, wow, you know, another representation of, well, just one more way of that they're telling us this story, but you just, if you're not awake and you're not aware to it, you don't see it. You don't understand. You take the story for what it is at face value, some animated film, whereas now, as the whole, you were talking, my brain just, like, in 30 seconds, I ran through the whole movie and I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
That's
pretty much, I mean, we've been told over and over again what's happening in our films and in our stories and throughout our history and our you know, the Gnostic books and things like that. And people are so trapped. Now they put some of this stuff
to even show how the other side of this. I just thought of this too. Well, how did they beat it at the end? They used the matrix of leadership, the matrix of power, right? And, you know, what did he say? Out of many, one, or whatever, and he opened it up. And where did it come from? It was like the energy inside. It was like he had to open his chest plate and pull the essence of himself out and open it and to save it. It was the essence of all these, you know, it was knowledge, basically, that was in there.
It was the light.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what destroyed Unicron, and who helped Unicron? But this group of bad Transformers, the Decepticons, right? And they would, you know, like the Galvatron or whatever was left of them, right? They were working, and then he ended up getting the Decepticons to work, you know, for him. So by in default, they ended up de facto, whatever you want to call it. They ended up working for Unicron. And they went around, you know what I mean? It's just, you look at what's going on now, and it's like, wow, were they trying to tell us what's going on? And perhaps maybe there is, if you look at it, you know, this deep, that there's this darkness, whatever it is, that goes around trying to destroy goodness and whatever. It's, you know, we call it Satan, evil, dark, whatever, and it's coming into this universe, this reality, this realm, and it's sucking the energy out of planets, out of people. I mean, look at the evil that's going on by killing millions of people in the Middle East, you know, and all the souls that are leaving this planet because of this lust for blood and money and control by this group of a small group of individuals, just like in the movie The Decepticons, right? And then this dark energy that they serve as like Unicron. You know, and the light workers are like the good Decepticon or the good Autobots trying to fight. And then again, at the end of the movie, how is the ultimate evil, the darkness, Unicron, the planet destroyer, how is it killed? He opens the matrix of power, and I believe he says, out of many, one, or we are all one, or something like that, and then opens it up. And it's this, basically, when they asked what was in it, he said, oh, it contains all the knowledge of, you know, all the previous people and the knowledge of good and all this stuff. So what's knowledge? Light. Empowerment. So he opens up an object that contains light, and it destroys this dark, evil creature instantly. I mean, because as soon as he opens it up, the light just kills it.
What's the message? The message is that the power is inside of you. That's what I'm trying to tell people too. The power is inside of us. It has always been inside of us. A lot of these Transformers and things like that is just a retelling of tales that were told in the Gnostic times. I don't know how far this spans, but you know, we're living in a very small speck and a droplet of this vast ocean of time. And so when I say with urgency, this thing is about to manifest, it's about to manifest, it could be a result of me just being so tapped in that I can feel it a lot more than I was before, or we may be be at a critical point right now, or it may be something that we need to do right now at this moment in order to ensure 10 generations down the line or even 100 generations down the line. I don't know how this all spans, but what I do know for a fact is that we all have to take that energy from within us and shine this light. And what's happened is these religions are always telling you, fear the light, fear enlightenment. Don't do that. We have the real light. We have the real knowledge. All you need is Jesus Christ. That's all you need. You don't need to study. You don't need to research. You don't need to open yourself up to anything.
You don't need to meditate.
That's the key right there. Meditation is evil. Yoga is evil. There was even a Christian yoga people that were calling it something else. They were calling it Jesus exercises or something like that. And basically doing yoga, but they didn't want to call it yoga because they believed they were tapping into
spirit walk.
Yeah, they were tapping into something else. No, it's backwards. We need to harness these powers. We need to harness the power of understanding how magic works, because it's being used against us. And if we don't understand the weaponry they're using against us, they're going to continue to use it over and over again. We need to understand geometry. We need to understand sacred symbolism. We need to understand all of this stuff, not be in ignorance. And I guarantee you, all the conclusions that I have drawn, I have not drawn them from ignorance. I have drawn them from knowledge. That's why they're so afraid of knowledge, because they hold the false light and they say, look over there. They're Luciferians, and they're pointing to the Satanists, and the Satanists are pointing to the Christians and saying, oh no, that's the evil one, et cetera, et cetera. When the truth really is that the wisdom is the key. One of our friends, our mutual friends, called me a Luciferian, and I'm going, I don't even know anything about Luciferianism. I have no idea. Why are you calling me a Luciferian? And so I looked it up. The tenets of Luciferianism, from what I've been able to gather, is number one, there's no doctrine for it. Number two, it all depends on the individual. Number three, it's about knowledge, truth, and life. That is the three major things that all Luciferians would agree upon: life, knowledge, and truth. It's about raising children in a more wise way. It's about living in harmony with planet Earth. It's about nothing but positive things. However, mainstream Christianity has tied it in with Satanism. Satanism is the complete opposite. It is the lust for everything and anything without any consideration or regard for anybody else, period. We had Jamie and Freeman on, and I asked Jamie and Freeman this off air, and they never got back to me. And I wanted to bring it up on air, but they go through this whole stuff, this Weird Stuff magazine about Lucifer and about all the different Gnostic beliefs that Lucifer's a morning star, Lucifer's the wisdom, Lucifer's the knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. Even after going through all of that, they still concluded, they did it on our show, they still concluded that Lucifer's Satan. And I'm going, where is the connection here? Who told you this? I should have asked them on the show. I really want to get this answer, because if I'm missing something in this piece of the puzzle, I need to know, because I need to know that there is a connection there that I'm not seeing, and I need to stop giving this message. But until I find that connection, which I don't think exists at all, period, I'm going to continue on this message of wisdom and love and truth and freedom. Freedom and life. That's what it's all about. But it just goes to show that the indoctrination and the programming even goes so deep. Maybe the connection between Lucifer and Satanism is just out of not wanting to turn off a certain religious audience or something like that. I mean, I don't know, because a lot of people, when you say the word Lucifer, they go, oh my God, you're demonic. Mm-hmm. There is nothing demonic about life and freedom. I'm sorry. You've been indoctrinated to believe that life and freedom is darkness. Life and freedom is the light.
Interesting.
Hallelujah.
Preach it, brother.
It's an interesting concept. That's why I said, and that, like, I give you credit for saying what you just said about that. If there is a connection, you would like to know it, so that way you can then change your, because right now, not that you just don't think there's one, you can't logically find one. And it's not that you're preaching anything. I don't think it's evil to have a conversation and ponder the question of could the entity or the physical manifestation of the idea of a physical Lucifer versus the idea of a physical Satan, could they be two different things? Like if they were men or energies, could they be two different energies? Could they have been put together a long time ago? I mean, it very well could have happened. We can't rule it out. You have to be open-minded, be able to look, let the facts lead you where they may. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. 3 short minutes. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm having an interesting conversation about religion, ancient aliens and their connection to religion, and ancient Sumer, Babylon, the Lucifer energy, Satan energy, what's good versus evil. Some interesting topics tonight with Chris and Sheree Geo. Guys, before I forget, because I haven't had you do this all night, and I should have, plug the show shamelessly really quick, and then plug all your Twitter stuff and everything else, and YouTube and everything.
Yeah, you can hear us over at Blog Talk Radio.
Nice.
I think everybody knows where to find us. But let's stay back on topic, man. There's just so much information to just jump right into as far as everything that we're talking about. But I just hope that everybody can take something out of this talk that we're having tonight and be empowered. That's what it's all about. It's about you taking responsibility and being empowered for your own self, your own being. Rise. Do not kneel. Rise. That is the key right there. However, there is the creator of all. And it's very important that we acknowledge the creator of all. And something that I have been taught over and over again over the past couple of months is that sometimes you have to just relinquish control and just say, the creator, I need your help. I can't do this without you. You have to give the glory to the creator. I'm talking about the creator of all, not God in the sense gold, oil, and drugs, and not God in the sense of religious sense. I'm talking about the one that created us all, because it's not that he's an ego, or it. I always say he because I'm so religiously brainwashed, or I'm just breaking out of the religious brainwashing. It's not that it's this egotistical thing that wants you to give it all the glory and it wants you to bow and do all this. No, it wants you to rise. However, you have to acknowledge the creator of all and give the glory to the creator of all, because that is what keeps your ego in check. That's the key right there. That's why you give the glory to the creator of all. Because if you start to, well, first of all, the line that we're walking is a very, very fine line between light and darkness, because you can fall into the darkness very easily by getting overwhelmed by the ego, because you're walking right on the forefront and right on the cutting edge of everything. And so if you don't take a step back, and you can still think that you're doing works of light while at the same time falling into that dark ego part, you have to give the glory to the creator of all. So glory to the creator of all. And thank you for tapping in and giving me everything that I'm here to deliver on this microphone tonight.
Well, see, like, I don't doubt that there's a creative energy. Like, I'm not atheist. I'm not. I don't like to label myself anything. First of all, I'm not any ist or ism or anything like that. Okay, and I just don't think we have all the answers. I don't think mankind can say we know it. Because if we did, we still wouldn't be killing each other over whose version of it is better, or whose story about where we come from is better, or the fact that we would actually be having the conversation where we actually think that God, for like, okay, if you want to call him God, or say I say the same thing, him. So if you want to call the energy whatever, we'll make it simple. God, right? The thought that God is a real estate agent, really? The thought that he's a real estate agent, or it is a real estate agent. I keep saying he. Again, it's that programming, as you grow up. I don't think that energy really cares about what human gets to walk on what sidewalk, or drive down what street, or gets whatever piece of sand. To think that, I don't care how good you are, how great you are, how much you love listening to my show. Think about this for a second, just logically. I'm not disparaging you, but that's not using any thought. Why would an energy that has the imagination or the forethought or whatever you want to call it, that probably can't even probably come up with a word to describe it, whatever, to create everything that there is, all the different types of life, that I mean, the tiniest little ant to all the way up to human beings and everything in between. You really, and I'm not talking just on this planet, every other planet, the universe, all the multiverses, because even if there's the Annunaki with, aliens, whatever, okay, fine. Something had to create their energy too, so they had to come from somewhere. You really think that energy is going to turn itself into, a man and then come and say, yeah, you can have this piece of sand, and if any other human being, any other life that I created, kill it, destroy it. Do the exact opposite of what I just created, this beauty. I mean, think about the logic in it. Well, it was Satan. Satan comes in, or Allah, and, Allah's just as bad. No. all of these gods, I'm doing air quotes, come from the same beliefs. They all stem back to these same beliefs and the same time period. Okay, so maybe, just maybe, these prophets, whatever, maybe they were these Anunnaki. I mean, look at the mainstream Indian religion in India today. Okay, they believe that their gods had epic space battles. Where do you think Star Wars comes from? Darth Vader was a character in one of these epic stories. They were using space-age nukes on each other thousands of years ago, and this is their mainstream religion. And do I think they have it right? No, but I think look, at least they're willing to accept that there's stuff that perhaps maybe they were flying around, but they call them gods. Their gods flew around on magical spacecraft in the past. What would you call that? I would call that a UFO. When you see things in the Bible, they talk about spinning discs of fire. What does that sound like? Spinning discs of fire? Maybe they would have seen the light and thought it was fire, because remember, back then they didn't have electricity. Most people used fire to see. If they had to go out in the darkness, they usually brought a torch or a candle. They probably didn't even have candles back then. They probably only used torches. Think about it. I mean, I know there's the Baghdad battery, but you get my point. You know what I mean? So it's just, people need to sit. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind about religion or anything like that. I'm not bashing you, whatever religion you believe in. I'm just telling you. I'm not hating on anything. We're not evil. I don't support the devil or anything like that. It's none of that garbage. I'm just asking you to think clearly. I don't think that the omnipotent intelligence, whatever you want to call it, that would create all this energy would then give a high five to only certain people for killing everybody else.
Come on. You don't think God would make a deal with the original Jews?
I don't think
the original Jews were smart enough to make a deal with God.
The OJs?
Yep.
That is so true. Is it an OG?
Let me address something that's going on in the chat room. There's somebody who said, all I hear is evil coming out of this guy. Evil, submit to evil. This is how backwards we have become as a society. When I laid the foundation out for light and darkness, and I've said it many times over. The foundation is anything of light is life and freedom. Anything of darkness violates life and freedom. There is justice. Justice comes in as an equal reaction to somebody violating or impeding upon somebody else's life and freedom. That is justice. But outside of that small construct, it's all darkness. Any kind of act is darkness. But yet people still hear this and go, oh, you want to save life. You want all sentient beings to be free. You're evil. What the hell is going on here?
Well, some people, and I don't know if I don't know what the person, whoever said it in the chat, I don't know what their their thought process is, because I'm not sitting with them. But everybody's entitled to their opinion. And again, I'm not asking anybody to change their religion or change their beliefs. All I'm asking is everybody to put those things aside for a brief minute and just look at the information as it is. Just information. Take away all emotion or any of that stuff, because that's honestly the only way you're going to do a fair evaluation, is to look at the information without some sort of bias, whether it be religious bias, emotional bias, whatever. And I mean, it's hard to do. I'm not saying that I'm not standing up on a pedestal saying, trust me, I can do this every time. There are times that it takes me a while to look into certain things, maybe because I have to get my brain to a certain spot. I'm not God. I'm not perfect. I'm not a superhero. I'm not trying to preach to you or to get you to buy into anything. I just want everybody to realize that, at least from my perspective, I see that mankind as a whole, everybody, doesn't matter what country you come from, what you look like, who you currently pray to. I think we've all been lied to, and it's because right now there's this group of individuals that wants to control us. Now, they are evil. We've gotten into what could be this evil energy behind them, controlling them, how things could have been manipulated to try to manipulation of words and stuff. They do that. I mean, that's word magic. This is talked about all the time. That's where real magic with a K comes from. It's all word manipulation and stuff. And that actually has a very powerful meaning. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And there's one thing I want to bring up. The idea of Lucifer, when you research it, if Lucifer was an individual, let's say Lucifer was a separate individual than if you're going to break down the energy of the way Chris was talking about, you were talking about the Lucifer energy and the Satan energy, right? Well, if they're not the same thing, if they're different, when I first heard you talk about this, the reason I found it somewhat interesting, I'm not saying that I'm running out in the streets saying, this is the truth, you must listen to it. I'm just saying I found it somewhat interesting because the stories of the Anunnaki are somewhat of the same thing, where you had this individual of the Anunnaki kind of break the rules and teach us stuff that we weren't supposed to be taught, and it brought us up to another level. And I think that if what you say is true, and others I have come across this, that the idea of Lucifer and Satan could be two separate things. Okay, if you want to anthropomorphize it and make it individuals, two separate people or individuals or beings, well then perhaps this idea of Lucifer is representative of this member of the quote unquote Anunnaki, ancient aliens who broke the rules and gave us information and brought us up to, a little bit further up from where we were, which was nothing more pretty much at that point than like drooling humanoids.
This is a whole nother show, Popeye, but you nailed it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the Lucifer consciousness is.
Okay, and then it's just,
I can go into a little
go ahead if you want. I'll give you the floor. You got like 15 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, really quick. Before we get any further, let me say this. A lot of religious people don't even realize, but the whole concept of hell and Satan and the tie between Satan and Lucifer comes from a fictional work called Paradise Lost, a poem by John Milton. And this is where you get all the concepts of the fiery brimstone and people poking you and devils and demons and all this stuff. They talk about the lake of fire in the Bible, but there's no elaboration on it whatsoever. All of the concepts come out of a fictional work. So religious people are following a work that is openly admitted to be fiction. This, and outside of the Bible too. It's not biblical. It's a fictional work called Paradise Lost. So what happened is we had a couple of several Anunnaki that came. They landed at one point in time. Enlil was the one who I believe is Jehovah, and was the evil one that went out and killed everybody and did all this. There was two creations, and that they talk about in the Sumerian tablets. The first one was the creation of Adam and his wife, and they were made to be slaves and workers in the Garden of Eden. And they were just they couldn't really be controlled because they were too dumb, but they still used them as slaves anyways. I believe that is where you get back to the root of God's chosen people. And of course, they've evolved over time, et cetera, but they're called God's chosen people because they're tied into that Adamic bloodline. Now, I'm not saying that these are the Hebrew people, because there is some contemplation as to who exactly these people are and what bloodline they come from, et cetera, and that the Hebrews aren't even the real Israelites and the real God's chosen people, but that's a whole another show, definitely. Now, there was another creation. There was Adape and Titi. They were created again by Enki later on, and they were given more of the God's essence. And they were taken to the garden, and Enki was looking at them like, oh my God, these things are special. They're not created as slaves. These things are, they're something else. And he gave us the ability to reproduce and the ability to think. And he took them to the side and he taught them the priesthood. And he flew their children to Nibiru, and they went and they met with the king on Nibiru. And, it was a whole spiritual teaching that Enki was passing down. And then eventually they separated, and the cities were formed, and there was Sodom and Gomorrah, and there was a nuclear war between the gods, and they blew up Sodom and Gomorrah. They blew up Sumar as well. And, the whole story progresses from there. But there is two distinct creation stories of man in those. Now, back to the flood story that we were talking about at the very beginning. The council met, and Enki actually translates to Prince or Lord of the world, Lord of Earth. Now, during this council meeting, they all decided that they're not going to tell the humans. And Hersak, which was Enki's sister, if I remember correctly. Sister wife, yeah.
Yeah.
She went to him and she says, look, you got to save life.
Well, and she was the one who birthed these beings. She birthed Adamu and Titi herself.
The first ones were created in clay pots. The second ones were created within Nehurzak herself, the mother goddess. And so that's why they had so much more of the essence, because he went through, hundreds of different types of variations and tried different methods and was getting like all kinds of weird, creations. And Anki always had this sense of compassion for his creations. He created some that were lame, and instead of killing them, he made them servants to the king, or he gave them a role or a job that they were able to do with their deformities or with their disabilities, because he couldn't bring himself to kill his creations. Now, we were birthed directly from Nehurzak, and so that's why our bloodline or whatever is a little more enlightened, and we can feel more, we can see more, and that's why Anki took more pity on us, even more so. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself now. So they were meeting, and the flood was coming back, and Nehurzak said, you have to save these things. You created them. You're responsible for them. To hell with what the council's saying. You have to do something. And so Anki went, and he went down to one of the people down there who's known as Noah in the Bible, and he says, hey, look, and he talked to him through the cabin wall, because he didn't want to break his oath, in the sense technically. So he just went and he spoke to the wall, where he knew that Noah would be able to hear him. He
allegedly spoke through the wall,
and he told him what was going to happen and to build an ark, etc., etc. And he said, I'm going to send my lab assistant with all the DNA samples, and afterwards we're going to rebuild. And so they did. And so all the Annunaki retreated to space, and they retreated to the moon as well, as this cataclysm was coming back. Now, whole world was...
Really quick, what was the flood? What was it? Some sort of... Because
it was the passing of Nibiru.
Okay, I've heard that it was this collision of... There was the collision of, what was it? The planet was Lucifer or Tiamat, and it collided with... Or is that what supposedly created Earth and the Moon? You see, there's so many different things.
That was pre-Earth. That was way, way before they even landed here. At one point in time, there was a planet that made up the Earth and Mars as well, and then it got hit, and part of it became the asteroid belt, another part of it became Mars, and another part of it became Earth.
Okay, I just want to make sure that...
That's way, way ancient.
Yeah, separate thing. Okay, so then what was the flood itself then? It was the Nibiru was just passing by, and it was going to cause all this cataclysmic event?
Yes, exactly. Sometimes it passes with little events. Sometimes it passes with catastrophic event. It depends on how it's passing, how far it's passing away, what side of the sun we're on, et cetera, et cetera. Because the sun is huge. You have to remember that. I mean, even when you put Nibiru and Earth in one side of the sun and the other, they're not going to see each other, because the sun is just so huge in proportion to all of this. Anyways, so... Anki went and he told them to build the ark, and that he was going to bring all the DNA, etc. So after the flood, they landed on Mount Ararat, I believe. Ararat, yeah. And so Noah and his family, they went up and they did a burnt offering, and the gods smelt it, and they're like, who's doing burnt offerings? And they flew down there, and they saw that there was humans still alive. And they looked at Anki, and they were like, what the hell did you do? We agreed that you weren't going to do any of this. And he's like, well, I have to save life. I'm sorry. I have to save life. And so he said, okay, well, your title's stripped from you, and forever you'll be known as the Prince of Darkness instead of the Prince of the Earth.
Right.
So that's where the Prince of Darkness story comes in. Now, the Lucifer consciousness that I'm talking about, it could go back to Anki. Or it could have just been something Anki was tapped into and gave us part of that essence of him, because he was already tapped into that, and so he gave us the ability to be able to tap into it as well. I believe that this Lucifer consciousness and the Christ consciousness is something that is eternal and has been here since the beginning of time. And like I said before, the Lucifer consciousness is the key to the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness is the door. The Lucifer consciousness is the key. But if you want to anthropomorphize it, Anki would be the perfect story to go by.
Just as you were saying that, Chris, your connection got extremely horrible, literally. Like, the only time that it's gotten really horrible is when we got into this conversation, and it just got messed up. So go ahead and try to repeat that again, what you just said, because
it's actually, does this sound better?
Oh, way better. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, it was actually because I was channeling a demon. And so that's why you heard, it was actually me. It was the demon speaking.
Oh, it was the interfering. It was your inner reptile coming out?
Yes, exactly. Well, no, what I was saying is that after the flood, they went to Mount Ararat, and the people did a burnt offering, and the gods smelt it. They went down there, and then that's when all the council of gods realized that somebody had messed up. And Anki was like, look, I had to save life. I'm sorry. I created these things. I wasn't going to extinguish them all. And they're like, what did you do? Et cetera, et cetera. And Anki, his title, that's what it literally translates to, Lord of the Earth. An means Lord. Anki was stripped of his title, and he became known as the Prince of Darkness in the history books. And then you get the whole Enlil Jehovah story, where Enlil takes off and he creates this whole stronghold for himself, and he's got his own chosen people, and they're the slave race, and they're the ones that are enslaved. And so his books and his teachings have been the predominant one, and the one that have been pushed upon people through brute force. And Anki is kind of like, hey, you're on your own. You're men of your own. I can't interfere too much, but you have the essence within you if you want to enlighten it within yourself. And so I think that's why you don't see people going and knocking on doors and saying, hey, can I tell you about the Lucifer wisdom? Can I tell you about this and that? It's something that you have to kind of come to yourself. And, a lot of people like the person in the chat room, they hear this and then they go, oh my God, and they run 180 degrees.
So why don't we change the
fine.
name? Why don't we change it? Why don't we, instead of referring to it as a Lucifer because they've given it that, why don't you refer to why don't you just call him by his Anunnaki name? Like if that's what the story of quote unquote Lucifer is representative of him, then I would just say that the name of the real entity, the Anunnaki individual himself, instead of the made up name. But go ahead, Sheree, what were you going to say?
I would think that Anki himself would not like to be used as, a symbol like that.
Right. I've always felt, even before I came to this understanding, that this Lucifer consciousness is one of humbleness and one of, as I said before, you give the glory to the creator of all because you don't want your ego to step in the way. And so even when you look up Luciferianism, Lucifer is a guiding spirit. It's not a deity to be worshipped. It's more of a guiding spirit. And that's what it all comes down to, because it's the lessons that you need to stand up for yourself, and you can take the wisdom and you can tap into the wisdom, but ultimately the Messiah is staring you in the mirror, and that's what we have to realize. The leader and the Messiah is staring you in the mirror. And if anybody wants to argue with me on that, well, let's go throughout our entire history and you show me one leader that has been benevolent. One, just one, none at all, period.
Well, if the problem is in the mirror, then the solution is in the mirror. It's that simple. Meaning, if you're looking in the mirror and you see yourself and the problems lie within us, then the solutions lie within us. And that's why I always say the solutions to our problems are an inside job. It's kind of like trying to get people to realize that they have to take charge of their own lives. But it's an interesting connection. That's why I wanted to have you on and talk to you about this, because I know this is a really contentious issue, and people get really pissed off when you talk about religion. People take it the wrong way sometimes, and it's like, I'm not trying to push anything. I don't subscribe to any mainstream religion. I think there's a lot of historical value in certain things in the Bible, meaning that you can look at the story, and if you break the story down, you could see how it connects to other things in certain other stories, and you can take from that okay, there is something going on, and there's more to it than just that. I'm not just trying to simplify it, but I don't think anybody should just follow any one religion, whether it be Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism. I don't think you should just pigeonhole yourself into the beliefs of one. Well, this is what's been being worshipped for thousands of years, so it must be right. Well, how do you know? I mean, there's stuff that predates that. Well, they just didn't know what they were talking about. Well, how do you know that? Because the people in charge now told you? Yeah, that's a real good excuse. Again, appeal to authority. You're not appealing to your logic. I'm not saying there's no God and no creator. All I'm saying is, from my research, we've all been lied to. And there's no harm in having conversations about this. You're not going to burn in hell because you have a conversation about this. You don't have to repent for talking about this or hearing this or anything like that. And it doesn't matter what religion, whatever Islam tells you you're going to go burn in, or whatever the hell they send you if you're bad. I don't know. The point is, you get my drift. So we got about a minute and a half left. Where would Let
me say this.
Well, I want you to really quick. I'll let you say it, but I want you to also recommend. Where would you recommend the listener go to research about like the Anunnaki stories and stuff, so they can kind of see what we've been talking about here?
Well, let me say this. Luciferianism, labeling yourself as Luciferianism, is very antithetical to the whole idea of tapping into the Lucifer consciousness, because you're putting yourself in a box. And the point is to free yourself from the boxes. And so the term Luciferianism is out there, and it's being attributed to the world leaders and all of this in a false way, in a satanic way, because they are Satanists to the truest meaning of the word Satanist. But even the whole term Luciferianism, that's why I will never, ever label myself as anything. I'm a human being and a sovereign spirit. Where would I recommend people go to research Annunaki? I like Sitchin's translations. The Lost Book of Anki is a fascinating book. And there's people who try to debunk it, like Dr. Michael Heiser. However, if you go to his website, he sets you up for failure right off the bat in order to make it a situation to where he's going to come out right falsely. One of the first things that you see when you go to his website is, I challenge all the Sitchin people out there to show me where Annunaki means children of the rocket ships. That's not what Sitchin says that it means. It means those who from heaven came to earth. So they're setting you up for failure. The debunkers are giving you a false dichotomy right there. Take the information, research it for yourself, take what resonates with you, leave the rest.
Yep, word magic. You got to just put all emotions aside and let logic and fact lead the way. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. I always tell you the solutions to our problems are an inside job. I love you all. Catch you all again tomorrow night. We're out of here.